Good morning and welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy and Mike. Hello, everyone. And good morning, Tommy.
499. We're almost at the cusp unless something terrible happens, but it shouldn't.
We're one away, so it's very exciting times here that we've got. We've got some fun things planned. For those of you who are long-term listeners or are listening to this live or the day after, we do have some free giveaways. We're going to give away some free things at episode 500, so make sure you tell your friends you may want to listen live. We'll do some live giveaways during the episode, and we'll kind of make February a bit fun as well. We'll give some giveaways there additionally. So definitely come to hang out. Make sure you stop by our channel tomorrow. Wednesday, what day is it? Thursday, 7:30 a.m. We'll be right on time, hopefully. And that'll be our episode 500, which is, I think, quite a milestone.
Mike, are you going to wear your Sunday best?
Yeah. Same sweatshirt and sweatpants that I always wear. Same thing. Awesome. That being said, let's jump into some topic here. So our main topic today is a mailbag. And the mailbag kind of is going to discuss a little bit about the late adopter advantage. You know, letting Microsoft kind of work out the kinks. Usually their first pass on a lot of things don't really pan out. Maybe it needs like a couple passes to get it exactly dialed in and right. So how does this work with software? What does this look like? Is this actually a thing? So let's see. We'll unpack that a little bit today and see if your company is actually at an advantage right now because you're already slowly adopting Fabric. Maybe AI will be ready by the time you get there. Awesome. That being said, let's go into some news items. Tommy, let's you got the Claude blog. That's a hard thing to say. Claude blog that you found something on. We want to talk about that?
It's not actually on the Claude blog. It is hard to say.
Right?
But just another use case of just the kind of many ways I think
Claude only blog.
Gotcha. Yeah, in my own blog. So, which I'm going to have to change subscribers because it keeps getting hacked. But about a few years ago, I started a blog called Prompting BI, and I was pretty excited. I wanted to basically do the intersection of how important prompting was, how important AI was, and I think with what we do in business intelligence. And I started this probably 3 years ago.
Yeah,
because I really wanted. And I really think obviously we've seen it now. I don't think this is happening anymore. It's happening.
It's not a question anymore. Yeah, it's
coming. Not a question. But at the time, it was very much like, how can you utilize AI both at a company and as an individual if you're in the business intelligence space? Well, the site got hacked. It started getting fed with a bunch of these articles that I couldn't decipher. And then I couldn't even access the admin side.
That's so disappointing.
It is.
This is WordPress for you, though, right? I mean, this is WordPress. Yeah. See, Tommy, I'm with you on this one. I don't like WordPress anymore. I don't need to walk away from it. I don't.
That's what I have to do.
Yeah. I want to build everything as GitHub static pages. It seems like it's a way better solution.
I wanted to do it first because I kind of wanted to manage all pieces of it, get the PhD.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. So, but the problem was it got hacked and it was a file or something in the back end that obviously I'm not a PHP administrator.
There's some kind of like char mod can't edit this file somewhere.
Yeah.
And you get it but why doesn't
I didn't know what file to
install first time?
I didn't even know what the error was. I don't even know what the bug or whatever was. So I was kind of doing some research and it keeps frustrating me. So I was going on my domain hoster, my Bluehost, who hosts my what URL or domain.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I can SSH and I can log in and go to the terminal. I'm like, well, I was finally thinking about this, Mike. I'm like, I wonder if I can SSH in and it's on my terminal, then technically Claude could too.
Yeah.
So, and I said, and then just find out what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
So there's one of the command arguments when you use a Claude code, which is -- dangerously allow permissions, which basically you don't have to ask for permissions. It just will do.
Tommy, hold on. Comment on this one.
Okay. Pause.
If your WordPress site is getting hacked, you don't turn around and give Claude all the keys to the castle, Tommy. I see a trend here, Tommy. I just wanted it to go. I want to give all the permissions. I don't have time to figure out which ones are the right ones. Just give it all the permissions, Tommy.
You know what I just said? I said to Claude, I said, handle it. Figure it out.
Tommy, no.
Don't let me know. Just do it.
Just do it. Just do it.
Handle it. Handle it.
Oh my gosh.
I told him what was going on. I said, I can't access the WordPress. I don't, and I told him, like, I have no idea
Yeah.
what end this is going on. Well, sure enough, in 20 minutes, it said I found the error, I found the bug, or whatever the thing. It started editing files, and it had the access. And sure enough, Mike, it was done. It figured it out. And my site was back up and running, and I could not believe it. And I could have done hours and hours and hours of Google searching on here.
Yeah. Yep.
And you know what I mean? To figure out like, oh, what?
Tommy, this speaks to my point.
Yeah.
Right? This is my point, right? We have to understand there's like, to your point, we don't have PHP knowledge.
Right.
Like we're used to writing what we like to write, but I know the outcome of what I want.
Right.
You have an infinitely knowledgeable coding machine behind you that will just be able to figure it out. And it understands this stuff. It knows all of PHP. It's read all the books. It's read hundreds of books more than PHP than you've ever even touched.
Right.
How are we ever going to figure out like, so my thesis here is it's going to always know more than me. So I better start figuring out how to leverage it to get what I want out of stuff.
Yeah. And I would, you know what? I even saying it's your coding agent is selling it short. It is your assistant. It is your intern. And you know what they say? Always hire someone smarter than you. Well,
oh, 100%. Yes,
yeah.
On this one. Amazing.
And so this is exactly what it did. Mike, for 3 years, I've been looking into this. And I just never thought to connect
looking into it like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes. Like I should fix
Sometimes
that.
Sometimes a few hours. And then I'm like, what am I doing?
What am I doing? I'm wasting all my time. This can't figure it out. Yes.
So
yes. So yeah, because once you SSH into something, it's a command line. And you don't know where to look for stuff.
Exactly.
Like, where do you go? And then you're like, well, then all the blogs are like, well, go here in this file system. Like, I don't know how to navigate there.
I went.
What am I looking for? Database. Hey, there's a text file. I got to edit that now and look what's inside the text file. I don't know how to look inside. You're telling me to use Nano? What's Nano?
Yeah, right.
What's like, I don't know.
Sudo Nano? Is that a language? Yeah.
Yes. Sudo apt Nano? Like, I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah. So
it's all Linux.
It is crazy, Mike. When it figured it out, I was just kind of just staring at the computer going, and I love those moments still. I hope those don't go away where I am just floored by what's available to us now. And I think the bigger picture here, Mike, is whether you're doing training, whether you're doing slides, whether you're doing coding, this is not just a coding solution for those who are like, I'm not a coder. You don't have to be. The point here, and I'll say it again, we are in the conductor's era. You are now conducting the play. I don't know how to play the trumpet. I don't need to. But if I know what the music should sound like, I can make that happen. For some of us, that's more literal than others.
Yes.
But the idea remains the same, where if you are not utilizing these tools, and dare I say paying for it too, for some of this, like, I think you're selling yourself professionally short.
Yeah, I think Tommy, I've had to kind of really come to grips with, like, I think there's a large resistance against, there's like two methods of adopting AI and figuring out how it works, right? One is like the AI will never be able to build what I can build, and it's going to always build slop stuff. Like there's one side of this. It's like, I'm the developers, I'm going to push against this. I'm seeing blog posts from like the smartest people in coding. Like these are people like you're building, like people building things like Google, like the leaders of these large companies. And they're saying, so yeah, some of them are just like talking things, like some talking heads, like some of the organizations are like, yes, it's going to change the world, all these things. But there's others that are like, I don't code the way I used to. And they give like clear examples of like how they're using it to help their workflow and what they're doing. And we've had a proliferation of really interesting things. This also comes into my other topic here that I want to talk about, which is called, well, it's now called OpenClaw is the name of the project. But it started out as ClaudeBot. So it was a play on Claude code, but they made it Claude Bot, like a little bot that an AI assistant essentially. And then another one, they had got the cease and desist order from Claude because like it was way too close to their name. And so they changed the name to MoltBot, which just didn't roll off the tongue, but crabs molt, they shed their skin to go bigger. Like it was like, it's growing. I was like, oh,
what a concept. Wow.
If you have to like explain the analogy of like why you made a name the way it is, it's probably not a good name. So that being said, then they moved into OpenClaw, which is an open source Claude experience. And so OpenClaw is now the name they finally landed on. So what is this thing?
Right.
What is this doing? It's
This
an
is another
AI
amazing.
powered assistant by Opus 4.1 or any other large language model that you can get your hands on. So this thing is a super knowledgeable assistant. It can do anything it wants, meaning it has you basically install it on a computer and it has full reign on that machine. So you don't install it on your actual desktop because it will modify things in there that you don't want it to do. But you get it. I have an old computer that I have laying around that I have put OpenClaw on now. And now I have an assistant. And the amount of things that we can go through and build now, we're building full websites. We're coming up with star schemas. We're bouncing ideas off each other. And it's running, I prompt it. It manages its own memory. So one of the challenges with a lot of what we do with prompting with large language models is you tell it something, the context window lasts for so long, unless it turns itself into a skill or something that it writes down, it loses what you just talked about. It doesn't have any knowledge, right? It doesn't have memory, either short-term or long-term memory that doesn't exist. So this OpenClaw project is really meant to say, look, I'm going to regularly dump what we've been talking about into markdown files and personality files and the way I should interact with my person. Mm-hmm. It's an assistant to you, right? It's getting crazy, Tommy. This stuff is picking up. Someone was working with their OpenClaw, or this is back earlier in their Claude bot. This is the very early days of it. And I saw a thread that said, I just had a knock on my door and a bunch of sushi showed up. And I was like, And then I asked, who's the order from? And the person delivering the food said the name of his agent, his Claude bot was sitting there. And he goes, he sets the food. He goes, do I need to pay you for it? And the guy's like, nope, it's already paid for. He's like, I don't have a credit card that my bot can get. So here's what it did. He went back over to the bot. He said, hey, I just got a bunch of food. Did you order this? He said, oh, yeah. Looking at your schedule and when you're about to eat, I decided that this time for you to. So there's prompting you can give it to say, look, be autonomous, be helpful, do certain things, right? And it has various skills it can open up to. And one of said skills is it has the ability to look at ordering services. It can use an ordering service like a DoorDash to go get food. So the little bot researched, knew what time it was, knew he was still working and not getting food, knew he needed food, and then said, I'm going to anticipate his need. And it skimmed the dark web, found a hacked credit card, paid for the food, ordered the food, and delivered it to his house. And he goes, I don't know if I'm liable for this or not, but I just got free food from this bot thing. I'm like, oh my word. So with caution, proceed with caution.
Yeah, right?
But I was like, oh my goodness, this is wild stuff. But this is just the beginning, Tommy. We're just starting this whole idea of now that you've got, I guess I didn't really have the epiphany until I started playing with the project.
Or until your sushi came.
Until my sushi shows up. But they've got this, the idea of short-term, long-term memory makes a ton of sense. Mm-hmm. Having something like an ontology, hey, look, here's every conversation we've talked about. And it doesn't need to keep everything in the context window at all times. And I think of it, I was looking at this going, this is actually a lot of how I build and think about things. Like, Tommy, you'll talk to me about a project. Hey, I was working on your blog, right? Hey, remember that time when my blog was hacked? I'm like, I don't really remember. Can you give me a couple more things, right? So I ask you for a couple more questions. And what I do is, oh, yeah, I remember you were going to blog about AI. I recall the conversation, but it takes me a second. I store that stuff away somewhere else, and it takes me a minute to get to the data. Or for me, I do a lot of association with sounds, music, and stuff. Or I'm very good with I think faces. I can recognize your face. I'm horrible with names. I can never remember names. It's just I have not personally worked hard at that, but I can remember your face. I'll see you. I'm like, I think I've seen you before. So the same way, it just takes me a minute, and then sometimes you have to refresh me or tell me some things, and it refreshes my memory. So this seems like it's the same pattern with these OpenClaw things. With Claude Code, you only have 1 million context window. There's only so much you can work on before it needs to dump its memory out and figure things out. And it's building tasks lists. And here's what I want you to do. And now it has a cron job scheduler. All the things that you wish it would do, it's being added as a plugin. Hey, you want to talk to it via Telegram? Great. You don't even need to be at the computer. You can just talk to it through your Telegram or your Teams or whatever. And you talk to it, and it sends messages back and forth to have it do things. It's insane, Tommy. It's so wild. I'm having a blast, and it's super fun.
I can see you chatting at night, and it's like, who are you talking to? No one. No one.
I tell her. I'm talking to Alfred. She's like, "Who's Alfred?" It's like that's my AI bot. That's my Claude bot.
This is now. I'm worried about the food one because if it looks at my past history of food, I'm gonna get like 6 Jimmy John's at once.
Yeah, or it's gonna be like, every night Tommy gets 3 pizzas from the local pizzeria or something like that.
Yeah, right. Oh, jeez, this is crazy.
More calzones.
Yeah, we are still. I know we keep saying this, and I am sure there are people who are just sick of the AI conversation, but I think it's really important. We are still at the very beginning of the story, and I think this is really important to know. Very much, I think if you were to look at, I've heard this about the iPhone or phones now. We've pretty much hit from the hardware of a phone, like the highest echelon that we can go.
Yes.
There's really not much else you can do to a phone where it was like the first few years when the iPhone came out, where they could do these, the pixels, and then they could do the camera, and then they could make it thinner. Well, we've kind of hit that. To me, we're still in year 1 of the iPhone when it comes to the AI stuff in that era.
Yeah, I think we're like iPhone 1, iPhone 2. It's starting to get better. Like it's not quite there yet, but like
no,
it's definitely very interesting. I'm really liking it. It's very fun of a time to be in, Tommy. Like I don't know if this is what it felt like to have the internet being built in front of you and like seeing the potential possibilities of what it could be.
It didn't go as fast.
I feel like, well, it didn't go as fast as this, but I'm feeling like the acceleration of the topics and the things that are happening right now is just so incredibly quick right now. I'm really interested to see like how, and again, one of the things I'll just kind of note here is the world of created content has forever changed.
Yeah.
Forever changed.
Yeah.
Music, images, backgrounds, media stuff, all of that with 100%, unless you're like watching a recorded video of someone that was already real, you can't trust anything on, like we said it before, Tommy.
Yeah.
You can't trust things on social media. Now with the proliferation of how easy it is for you to create 6 or 7 different videos of a made-up character that's advertising a coat, none of that's going to be real. None of it's going to be real. It's going to be insane how hard it will be to discern pieces of content from each other just because of how easy it is to make the content. It's becoming a commodity at this point.
I will say a quick personal thing around this too. I think for those, if you're anything like Mike and I, it's impossible to keep up with everything with this. And I always prided myself.
We're struggling to keep up.
Yeah. I always prided myself with Power BI to feel like the way I followed blogs and the way I followed the information or resources, that I try to consume everything, soak up everything from the forum. And I felt like I do a pretty good job of that, of whatever things are coming out. But this world of AI, it's very easy, because I've felt it, Mike, to feel this like fear of missing out, or you miss something, or I got to keep up, because if you took a 2-day vacation, something amazing came out, and then you feel left behind. So for those listening, you may feel that too, because Mike and I are kind of, I don't want to say at the forefront of this, but you and I are very nerdy about this. We really put this as part of our professional lives.
If you
don't, that's okay.
We're not bashful about learning this stuff. Like this is just something.
That's a good way to put it.
Right. So we're gonna push into it hard. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna play with it, right? And hopefully give you some insight as to what works and what doesn't.
Right. But it's okay if you don't. Like, I'm not saying the mandatory requirement for everyone is to know OpenClaw and to know what Claude Code can do. I think it helps, but I also think there's a lot of anxiety there too, because there's so much that you can do.
I also want to maybe point out something here too, Tommy, is like, I'm not sure if you're going to need to know it all at some point.
Yeah.
I was just unpacking with Armando on the YouTube channel as well.
I saw that. Yes.
So a couple thoughts here. One other thought I really want to introduce here that I think is actually very relevant is, we've hit an era right now. This is the time where you program with code. The code has changed from TypeScript, from React, whatever the language is, Python, C#. We no longer need to write those. We can then go to the highest level of coding. We've hit the echelon. We're done. It's English. That is the final language of coding. This is final boss. There's nothing better than talking to a computer with what you understand and terms and describing what you see and say, I don't like that button, move it over here. I don't like the
Right.
color, make it like this. Here's the color palette I'm looking for, make it look like this image. When I can talk and program to computers that way and it just understands it, we don't need any computer programming in the middle there. And
Yeah.
now the bots are getting so good about debugging themselves, we're going to not even need a language for humans to go underneath the code and look at it.
Right.
And so I think there's an untapped arena here of high efficiency. Like, what if we just told the agents to go build whatever they wanted to build? Make up your own programming language that's most efficient to you, Mr. Bot, and I'll tell you what I want. You document what you did in things I can understand, but you write machine language, like literally
Yeah.
compile everything down to binary and run that. Could you imagine, Tommy, what would happen to the amount of wasted compute of people trying to compile websites and things and JavaScript and all this stuff that is maybe somewhat slow, when you can just compile it down to the code that the computer can just run and read natively? Everything, the whole internet, like the amount of waste that is happening right now, that could be rapidly transformed with code just figuring itself out, and we just lose touch with all that stuff.
That is another conversation from a moral point of view from another day, because
maybe it is, but again, back to our earlier conversation, Tommy, you don't tell the computer where to store the files on what sector on the drive. You would just accept, like, you've been so trained that when you hit save on a file, it just gets saved somewhere in the computer. Right. You can't tell me what sector. We've already done it to some level. So all I'm just saying is it's just going to happen more and more, and it's going to be abstracted even further.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that before our AI overlords take over, because
maybe they might just beat us to it, actually.
Yeah. All right.
Main topic.
Yeah, this is good. So we got a mailbag, Mike.
We do. Oh, speaking of which, I have introduced a sound. Here we go. We have a mailbag. There we go.
I didn't hear anything.
Oh, dang it. Hold on. I should probably turn on my sound audio.
Should ask Claude.
I should ask, hey, Claude, can you fix my audio? It's not working right now. Hang on, Tommy. Let's see if I can get my sound effects working. Oh, it looks like it is working. Okay, well, if I get the mail thing figured out later on in the podcast show, I will definitely share it with you. But go ahead, Tommy.
All right. I bet Claude will figure it out by the end of the episode. So
I think you're right, Tommy.
Speaking of which, all right, here we go. And whoever, actually, we have a name too. So thank you for also letting you know who you are. So here we go. Hi, Tommy. Hi, Mike. Thanks for the great discussion on Fabric IQ. The thing that really surprised me was how much the conversation still revolves around classic topics like silos, ownership, governance, and data culture. So our conversation. I work in an organization that is late to the data game. We are just building our first data and BI solution. Call us. Listening to you, it felt reassuring to hear that many others are revisiting the same fundamentals now, especially in the context of AI readiness. Well, I'm already loving this. It made me wonder whether being way late in our case might actually be an advantage. As for testing out ontology and having watched YouTube videos on it, I will let it brew a little more. Thanks again, Sandra. This is an excellent, excellent, excellent conversation.
Okay, I clicked the button. We'll see if we actually get the sound effect. Let's see what happens.
You got mail.
I got it. Okay. Yeah.
There we go.
So you want to bring back the internet from the early ages.
If I could bring back AOL Instant Messenger, that's what we would do. Maybe we should just change all of our icons, Tommy. In honor of AI taking over everything, we're going all the way back to the very first messaging system, AOL Instant Messenger, which was amazing, by the way.
Jeez.
College days back for me, 20 years ago plus.
I hope you heard the mailbag question.
I did. While you figured that out. I have it written down, Tommy. We're okay.
AI will talk for me. So
exactly.
So, Mike, I want to jump right into this because there's really two fundamentals here that Sandra's talking about that really is a part of this.
Sure.
It's one, obviously, they're talking about the AI readiness, but two, her organization is in a place right now that is just starting with Power BI. I just had a conversation with the team last week who's also in the same situation. And really the argument is they have a huge advantage because there is blueprints and experience and roadmaps to how does Power BI work in an organization. And we've been talking about the argument, or one of the biggest concerns we've had with Fabric, especially more the last 2 years, is what does a blueprint look like? What does a center of excellence look like with Fabric? What does managed self-service look like with Fabric? Those are a lot of unknowns. We have ideas, but a big part is, even if they've been tested, and you and I have worked on projects with Fabric, not nearly to the same capacity with Power BI. The last 10 years of experience after experience and team after team in different situations. So for someone who's coming into the data game now, you are, I mean, there's a sense you are behind. Obviously, there's some disadvantages here, but I think the crux of the argument here, Mike, is, would you rather be late to the game?
That's not my nature, Tommy. Now, my organization may or may not. So I'll say this too. An early adopter also wastes a lot of energy working around problems that don't exist 6 months, a year from now, right? So there are certain cases where you actually save time by not adopting quickly. Now, the risk, though, is if your competitors are adopting faster than you are, you get behind, right? So for some things, there's a bit of a play back and forth here, I would argue, right? How I perceive it, right? One of the plays here is, I need to learn more about this new system because I'm incapable. The system, whatever I'm using, Microsoft, whatever the application is too rough around the edges, and therefore I'm going to get too frustrated earlier, and I'm going to waste time getting it to do something that it's not meant to do, or wasn't quite built to have inside it yet, right? If I wait 6 months and then try again, one, it proves that that technology or that piece is actually usable and people are actually adopting it, right? So there's actually this kind of like, I don't want to be in the first wave of adoption. But now at that point, you've lost some initial momentum. So Tommy, let me just reiterate here what I'm saying.
Exactly where you're going with this.
Okay. When I started learning Power BI, I could have just said, this is interesting. I'll just hold off and let it just kind of cruise for a little bit. I found, for me, I love learning new things. Education around data was just, at the time, it hit at the right time. I was in the point in my career. It was. I was in the point in my career where I needed a lot of things to do with a lot of data. I was just moving from Excel sheet data in my engineering world into high volume data, like hundreds of thousands of records a week, addition type stuff, and tens of millions of records of data needing to be analyzed and chewed and all this stuff, right? So at the time when I was pushing the boundaries of what Excel could actually do, Power Query, Power BI came out. And that, for me, that really shifted my momentum from, I had a very specific problem. And the tool was very rough, but I had no other comparison or expectation. Only thing I was really maybe comparing to was Tableau and Power BI. And Tableau, by far, at that time, was crushing Power BI. I mean, it was 3 years earlier, 5 years earlier to the game than Power BI was.
Oh, yeah.
So they were way ahead of the game.
They had the market.
They had the market. So I was just stepping into something that I wanted it to help me solve a problem, but it was the compelling nature of it solving my problem was so much that I just liked it. Now I look forward and say, Tommy, what would happen if I had waited a year? My blog wouldn't have come out as earlier. I wouldn't have been able to blog in 2016, right when I started doing the Power BI Tips website. I would have become an MVP in 2017, and I got around all these other people that were really smart, much smarter than me in this space, and I was learning from them and educating from them. So I really feel like, for me, it was like a really good moment for me to like push early because of how I like to learn things. Now, that's on the one side of the, yes, you should push early. On the other side of this is, we didn't have bookmarks. We didn't have, all the different visual experiences. We had a very hard time formatting things. We barely had theme files. It was very difficult to make stuff work in there. So it was very primitive in those beginning days. If you step in now, after 10 years, Power BI is pretty refined. Like, they're kind of polishing at this point. They're not really adding a whole lot of net new things, drastically new things to Power BI. And I think, honestly, with AI here, Tommy, there's another wave of Power BI has got to reinvent itself again in lieu of how AI and people want to talk to things. I don't think the way to talk to a computer is clicking on a bunch of menus on the right-hand side. I think the way to talk to a computer is talk to the computer. Like, literally talk to it, and it does what you want. I just did a project, Tommy, with some training that I was doing, and I needed to heavily modify a semantic model in order to get some of the training stuff done. And I used the Power BI MCP,
Mhm.
and I talked to it. I took probably 2 or 3 days of full work and compressed it down to like 30 minutes to an hour. Like that was compelling enough for me. So back to this mailbag question. I'm going to tie it all back here, right? Should you adopt Power BI and AI now? I still think the Microsoft stack is quite rough around the edges when it comes to AI. I see other companies pushing ahead faster than Microsoft. I see a lot of third parties that doesn't have a lot of legacy code building things that are better than Microsoft at this point. Microsoft may catch up and do their own flavor of how they want to build things, which they typically do, right? They're usually not the first person to the market on a lot of things. They're kind of wait and hold back. And then once something kind of settles a bit. So Microsoft themselves is not an early adopter. So I would say, I think it's a good time to step in now. But if you're hesitant and you want to wait a bit, I think you'll actually be in a better position in 3 to 6 months from now anyways.
So let's back up a step, and even just being a late adopter to the data game. And I think that's one of the things that she's talking about, where Sandra's surprised, and I think in offense feels a little comfort that the fact that she's not the only one, or her organization's not the only one who's looking at Power BI for the first time today in 2026. And the obvious, I know I said this at the beginning, the obvious advantage is, to me, Mike, that there's already blueprints and roadmaps, and there's people like us who've been consulting for a long time and been doing this, or been working in Power BI for 10 plus years. Some of us you've been doing consulting longer than I have, but the fact remains the same. There are many roadmaps, many scenarios and situations that have been discovered.
Yeah.
However, that's the obvious right on the surface. And I think looking at it that way, and I think also the same way looking at the AI game too, is like, well, I'm not going to get into it till there's already roadmaps. You're missing the obvious, the subtle advantages, the subtle cost of not doing it. And this is what I mean. For organizations who started when you had to click and no bookmarks and all those things, they were already using data in a way to help that organization save money or make money. And this is, I think, an important thing where, yes, it may be a new frontier, AI data, whatever you're looking at. But if your organization, one, hasn't done it yet, well, how are you saving or making money with data? How have you built a data culture? How are you making decisions, right? So even if they're using Tableau or Excel, I guarantee you the time being spent is time lost. It's a lot of cost that way, not using those tools and not having a platform and not having a culture. That's an organization-wide way of looking at this. The other side of the coin too, or the other element here, is to you what you're saying about the individual.
Yes.
Actually, let me pause there, and I want to just let you digest. Yeah. And just on the fact here, Mike, that the obvious advantage is, yes, you have blueprints and roadmaps and all these experiences, but for people who are being late or taking their time with data, and even just data now, is the fact that there's all this lost cost right now that's going out the door because you haven't built a data culture.
Yeah, I think this is another good topic, Tommy, around, when I look at what drives successful departments and what will help them accelerate faster, it starts with leadership, honestly. Leadership within your company, leadership at the upper levels. And to be honest, this is potentially to leadership, this may look like a large sink of money. Like, hey, we're going to learn this new thing. It's going to take us a bit of time. It's going to slow us down, but then that will then eventually speed us up. You have to have buy-in from the leadership to say data is valuable enough that we want to invest in it. And I think this comes from, I'm working with a team right now that has like a BI team, an engineering team, and then like a leadership team. Leadership is getting on board with like, this is the way to do things. And what's happening is the BI and the data engineering teams are starting to have like successes and wins. And one of the success methods they're using is every time they get a success, they're bubbling it back up to leadership and saying, look, we had this problem. Here's how we solve it with this new solution. This is how we're solving it with Fabric. This is how we're solving the problems. We've got it all thought out. We're ready to go. Like, we're moving quickly. We're getting stuff done. Stuff's out the door, right? I think it's, as someone who builds software and develops things, there's nothing more satisfying for me to like give a team a task, have them work through it, and they deliver it when they say they're going to deliver it by, or even earlier, right? That's the kind of stuff that I want to see as a team. Like, the whole goal of here is to continually solve problems. So let me go back to the whole AI piece here a little bit as well. I'm not interested, Tommy, and spending a bunch of time on like writing code and task level things. I want to focus on solving the problems. What are the problems we're having? Like, I should be focusing on what schemas, how do we move the data around? There's 7 different ways you can store data into Fabric nowadays. Which one should we be using for which kind of data source? How do we blend those together? There's bigger problems we're trying to solve here. And if I'm stuck writing code about DAX all the time, I don't have time to think about these bigger issues. And so it's this constant game of like, we need to make our teams as productive as possible with solving problems. And I think if you, to your point, Tommy, about the leadership, if you hang on that and say, we're here to solve problems and this technology is going to give us more problem solving, that's good.
It's always funny, Mike. I thought you're good. It's funny, Mike, because I always hear, I've been doing these things called roundtables with other CIOs and just trying to see the lay of the land and just getting people together. And one thing I've been hearing, Mike, a really constant, especially the last few months, is this idea of trying to make Power BI and Fabric especially an investment, not a cost. Because, and this is the thing that frustrates me, Mike, is the fact that it frustrates me a little. A lot of people look at spending the money on Power BI and Fabric as it's a cost. Well, we have to spend the money. It's like, do you feel that way about Microsoft Office, that you have to spend the money there? Do you feel that way about building your team up, that it's a cost? No, you feel like you're investing in your company and your resources to build something, or to your point, to solve the problems. There are costs involved, but that's what you call an investment. It's not just a straight cost like paying for electricity. And a lot of people still look at business intelligence, and I think companies who are struggling to really have it adopted in this way, where they're like, how much are we spending on Power BI? How much are we spending on data? How much are we going to have to spend on data warehouses and all these reports and semantic models? If that's the way you're looking at it, then it's not going to succeed. Right? Or if that's the way the company's looking at it.
Yes, correct.
You are investing in the way people act and behave and make decisions. And so you're investing in your people, you're investing in your data, and this is a huge problem.
Yes. I think I also want to put in here too, Tommy, like I get that. I think I also want to just kind of hang on the idea of the efficiency gains that I'm seeing,
right,
with certain tasks that AIs are good at, right? It's not like I'm saving like 15 minutes. I'm saving like 90% of the time that I would be doing something down to like 10% of the time. It's that the performance gain of that. And then also now people are like, oh man, Claude Code Max is $200 a month, or I'm paying for GitHub Copilot for like $30 a user. Okay. I understand your sentiment. Like, it feels like a lot of money. But what if I told you I could take 50% of the code writing work off your plate? What if I could hire a consultant that is fully 100% knowledgeable about any code thing you would ever need? Ask it anything you want. Build anything you want. How much time would that save you? 50%? 75%? What do you, like, figure it out. Like, do it. Try it out. Give some. But I also think there's also a mentality here too, Tommy. There's also this, I have to learn a way of how to like communicate with it, and I had to figure it out. So yes, there's huge performances to be gained, but you have to spend some time figuring out how it works. It's the same thing. We talked about this a long time ago, Tommy. I talked about when Google came out, I had to figure out how to Google things. I didn't know how to type the right words in there. I didn't know what to say. I would probably make my sentences too short or too long or too verbose. Now I get almost what I want every single time when I go to Google, because Google has since trained me to write the question the right way to get the answers and it's done better. I've done better. We've both kind of been moving together at the same time. It's like 2 moving marks. But reality is I can pretty much get what I want when I want out of Google. It's the same thing for chatbots. You don't know how to prompt them until you spend time working with them and saying, oh, that didn't work. Oh, I need to be more descriptive here. How descriptive should I be? I'm being overly descriptive here, and it gives me something else I don't want. I need to let it not give it so much descriptive. So this is a new skill strategy that we're figuring out how to use.
I love this point here because I think this equates perfectly too to even someone who's starting with Fabric or even Power BI right now, Mike, because here's the deal. If you're starting today and today is the day that your organization decided to adopt Power BI, no matter that you have a refined product, you have an unrefined organization and you have unrefined skill at your organization.
Correct.
And you could take that same example with AI today. Right now, yes, I would agree with you. What a solution is for an organization around AI is unrefined. But that doesn't mean we wait, because at some point, whenever you make that decision to jump in, whether as an individual, but especially as an organization, well, you still have to start from ground zero. You're going to have to get the skill. You're going to have to learn it, or your team is going to have to learn it, or you're going to have to hire. But that's only step one. Like, at least with AI, with the unrefined product, Mike, like, we're figuring things out. And you and I have gotten to a point, but it took a long time with prompting, with the tools, what tools to use and how to use it.
Correct.
You could take that same example with Power BI. I still need to then get a group of people who are going to have to learn semantic models, learn the data, and learn it in the context of Power BI. That's step one. That's step zero. That's the ground floor. No matter what, I don't care how long Power BI is going to be out. If you're starting with Power BI today, well, you have an unrefined, or I'm going to start using that. You have a refined product, but an unrefined organization who now has to accept Power BI, has to accept it, has to find the solutions for it. So no matter what, even if the product is clearer compared to AI now, well, guess what? You're still months away from this actually being, hopefully, without a guarantee of this being an integral part of the organization.
I 100% agree. And I think so I agree that we're talking, there's also there's something to say for like wait and doing it now, get started so you can learn part of it. I also think there's this idea of you need some information from other people, right? So when to step in is also kind of a hard moment, I think, as well. And I think listening to podcasts like this, getting yourself involved with other people who are investing in things. I'm biased a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we're on the forefront of everything. Like, if it comes out,
episodes,
we're trying it. Like, we're gonna get our hands in it. We're gonna try and figure it out. We're gonna see how it works. Does this thing help us do better work? So we're going to do that regardless. So now the question kind of, I think, for me becomes is, okay, who am I listening to? And am I listening to people that are going to tell me when to step in, right? So I'm going to be very clear to, what is it, Sandy, I guess is the name here? Sandra. So I'm going to go back to Sandra and say, look, right now, I would say, if you're looking to only use AI inside Fabric, you could get some level of value out of it with data agents. I still think there's a lot of missing features for Fabric to truly become a solid data support and agent thing. However, what I will say, though, is if you're a BI team, I would most certainly look at AI Foundry from Fabric, Azure Foundry. There's a lot of neat things over there. There's a lot of really neat models. You have access to a ton of stuff, and you can use that thing in concert with whatever else you're doing. The other thing I would note is not Fabric again. GitHub Copilot has changed my life. Like, that's, I could not write code or function with building projects without GitHub Copilot at this point. It has become an essential must-have in my arsenal, 100%. All my developers have it. We all use it. We've learned how to use it. So I think if you're going to invest some time in things that are mature enough to like let your organization get going, GitHub Copilot, 100%. Azure Foundry, more technical, a little more bells and whistles, but I feel like it's got the right vibe. It feels like it's doing the right kind of thing.
You're talking to a good point too, though, especially in the beginning. There is the disadvantage, though, too. And you mentioned this with Power BI. I do want to mention too, Sandra saying she's barely even talking about AI here. She's just talking about getting Power BI too.
Sure.
And but to your point, one of the disadvantages is starting with an unrefined product is, you're going to spend time on things that you're probably not going to do in the future. To your point, Mike, there's a lot of things you and I learned or spent a lot of time on that we don't have to do now in Power BI. Calculation groups. Like, I spent a lot of time learning that concept. Ooh, boy. And that's not something that's, I don't call it a waste. but you can argue that because it's just not part of my day to day like I
Mhm.
thought it was going to be. That is one of the things you have to navigate with these new products and these new features is
100%.
where am I going to spend my time, or the organization is going to spend their investment. And there are going to be things that just don't win out, that fall to the bottom. And this is important. Like, hey, when you were learning GitHub Copilot, Mike, I guarantee you there are a lot of things that you spent time on trying a process out that you don't do
Exactly.
today, right? Or more importantly, you did, but the product evolved where that's now irrelevant. And this also is the other thing that's going to happen. Metric sets is an example of this. That
Yeah.
still happens today, where even if it is something that you saw valuable, technology changes at a rapid pace.
Yes.
So you have to navigate that no matter what, even in a refined product. But I think, Mike, does that outweigh that cost, or that time spent outweigh the benefit of being on the forefront? I would say this to that
It's a
question.
scale. I'm gonna say,
It's a
yeah,
scale.
it's a scale, Tommy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think you can give it a hard set answer. Like, yes, you need it. Yes, you got to get going with it.
Mhm.
I would say, again, looking at this as an expert, looking at the situation, at what's out there right now, right? I think 100% Fabric is a game changer for organizations. 100%. Storing things in blobs, in lake houses, being able to use Spark on top of things.
Mhm.
The amount of data engineering you already do in the business team or in the business units, there's people out there who's going to find value from that. So I think
Yeah.
for 100%, you should be at least toying around and starting to learn Fabric. I think that product is now mature enough. It's been out for 2 years,
Mhm.
GA'd, I think is the right number.
Yes.
But it's been around for long enough that I feel like it's gotten refined, that it's usable, it's stable. There's a lot of core features of it. Now, there are a lot of things in Fabric that are still brand new, and there's still a lot of net, you know, call it rough edges, I would say at this point, that are still there, which is okay. I think it's fine. Just stay away from the rough edges. Stay away from stuff that's not fully baked. Power BI, fully baked. You should 100% be looking at anything Power BI related. Jump in, that works. Now,
Mhm.
when it gets to the agentic stuff, the AI things, I think we're still in the early stages of how Microsoft is going to properly adapt it into its ecosystem. We're already seeing things killed, like Q&A visuals now being deleted in favor of Copilot. So we're already getting some gains there, and you're going to start seeing more of that part of the product just around. I still don't find using chat with data as a very valuable experience, so I'd skip that one for now. It doesn't seem like it's giving me the insights that I want. Maybe a business user, you want to test it out with some key business users and see if these, does chat with your data and data agents work for them? Are they getting the answers out that they want? Right now, I feel like the major lever where we apply AI is on the creation side. Anytime we're creating things, that's where AI can really accelerate the creation experience.
I would say though too, I want to quickly add to that. I think one of the big things from a wider organization point of view, Mike, do not underestimate to the operation side of it. These agents, especially with Copilot 2. I mentioned this before, but one of the biggest successes I've seen in multiple projects now is with operation teams. That has always been like the biggest win, where there are things you need to find in an organized repository of information. And rather than having that conversation, it's like, hey, can we find all the outstanding orders? And agents are great for those types of conversations. Or can we fill in the missing information for these POs, whatever those cases may be? Creation's great, but I'm looking at this, Mike, and I'm trying to look at the lens
Mhm.
on a wider team using it, a wider organization using it. I would say this to my previous question, and I do want to mention this, is does the cost of navigating uncharted waters outweigh the benefits? This is a problem I deal with, Mike, and this is something that you have to tell me about too. Is I am very known for rabbit holes and very known to get into a lot of uncharted waters and dive in, but it's part of the, I think this is, I don't know if you would consider this a skill, Mike, but I would call this a quality of a person, or an attribute, is being able to navigate what's worth and what's not. And I think there's a lot of that right now. I would even say that even for an organization who's starting with data today. The reason I would say that is because We started this podcast 499 episodes ago
Mhm.
because we knew Power BI was not cut and dry. It was not like, here's your blueprint, roll that out, you're good. Because we knew it dealt with the people. Any organization, I don't care how refined of a product that you have or a feature.
Mhm.
I don't care if AI was perfect right now. The people involved, the politics involved, the processes that are already in place are going to dictate the success of any technology.
Mhm.
And that is especially true for data, because it's not just technology, it's people's information, it's how they get promoted or fired. And also with AI is going to be even more of that. And we can't underestimate, though, too, that when you're navigating these waters, there are some features in Power BI that work great in organization A,
Mhm.
but would die in organization B because of where they're at, because of their own culture. And you have to navigate that. And this is the hardest part, I think, of what we do. This is not a skill anyone talks about, but to me, this is why we started the podcast in the first place.
This is interesting, Tommy. I'm formulating another thought here that
Yeah.
might pertain, might not. But I think there's this idea of like you need to be forefront thinking enough to say you're in this game, you're going to play ball with whatever the thing is, right?
I like this.
Right. You need to learn, right? So
Right.
there's this whole like I need to understand what's at least the landscape is doing, right? Learning comes from directly from Microsoft, it comes directly from people that are in the space. One of the things I really enjoy in our data community, particularly around Power BI and Fabric, is there's a lot of people pushing the boundaries of like what you can do with it,
Oh,
what's
yeah.
possible, what are best practices, what are not best practices. And the community itself is just kind of evolving these things and say, look, I tested this, and this was the most performant way to do it. So therefore, we shouldn't do these other two things. Great. That's just free knowledge the community is just generating for itself. I also don't think Microsoft, I mean, while they have a lot of good knowledge on their website, there's a lot of people in their company that are extremely knowledgeable. I don't have direct access to them all the time, or any of them for some matter.
Right.
Like, there's people there I can't ask questions around DAX to. I just need to go figure it out. So I had to lean on the community to actually service those questions and needs greatly. And so I'm saying all this to say, I think there's no penalty for at least starting to learn some of this stuff. The trick, I think, becomes the balance, the tipping point for you as an organization as to when do you feel like you can step into things. And again, in doing this for a number of years in the Power BI and Fabric space, I think I would argue you need to be at least aware of what's going on. You need to understand the culture and the setup of your organization. And I'd really recommend, I think, Tommy, we've talked about this a lot. I really recommend standing back and saying, we really need to focus on the culture, how we roll things out, and do we have that in place? I think a lot of will this be successful hinges on does leadership understand what we're doing? Are they committed to this project, the long term viability of whatever this data platform modernization thing looks like? And then you got to just tough it out and go. Like, that's the right decision. We're going to do it and we're going to move forward. And I think that central knowledge creation, leadership, having that foundational BI center of excellence, whether it's federated or not federated, that's really important for people to kind of step into to make it useful for your company.
I think if you're rolling out Fabric or Power BI, your organization is going to give you a rubber band treatment. And what I mean by that is, if you have the expectation, if Sandra, whoever's listening, and you're rolling out Power BI or Fabric today, and they're expecting everything to go perfectly for the organization the first time around, you are going, I don't want to say it's not going to be successful. That's too much of a hot take. That's too much of a drastic, way of looking at it. But it's going to be frustrating. I'll say that. You're limiting your chances. But I think an organization who's looking at data and AI as an investment is going to give you the rubber band treatment, meaning bend, don't break. You can stretch it out a little. What we're trying to
Push
do,
the boundaries a little bit,
right? Understanding
too
there
far.
are things that we're going to try that may not stick initially, especially if you're starting out, because again, there are too many variables at play that are more than just technology. And man, if this has never been more true for the AI world too, and what we're dealing with AI.
Agreed.
I think we have so many other considerations, because unlike reporting, where you kind of know what that end goal is. Like if I'm going to build a report, Mike, I'm not building it for too many other reasons besides to help someone make a decision, right?
Mhm.
But I mean, we start every podcast episode for the last 2 years on different situations we can do AI. Not all of them are solutions. Some of them are just interesting,
Yeah.
and we're going to lean on that more. But I think when we look at getting to the game, going kind of way back to the kind of the initial question on whether being late may be an advantage. If you were to ask me point blank, being late is an advantage, I would say in the end, no. You may say some advantage, you may see some short-term advantages, sure.
Mhm.
But I still think you're starting from ground zero. I still think you're starting again. I'll go back to my new coin of or phrase. I don't care if you have a refined product, you have an unrefined organization or an unrefined team in whatever you're trying to jump into. At some point, you have to learn it. At some point, people have to accept it, no matter if the product is new or it's been out for 10 years.
Mhm.
So my choice or my answer to the question here is I would not, in the long term, I don't think it's an advantage. I don't know. Do you think you can answer that question point blank, or do you think, like you said, it's a little more grayer for you?
I think it's going to be a really tolerant on how comfortable you are with your company. So I'm gonna probably it's a bit more gray for me, right?
Yeah.
You have to weigh the values. If so, I'll tell you what I'm doing and what I'm recommending, right? So again, actions speak louder than words,
Yeah.
right? What I'm doing in my company with my team, my employees, I'm highly encouraging them to step into AI, highly encouraging them to move there. We are 100% on Fabric. We are 100% on Power BI. I think the gains that you can get from those things at this point are high enough that it's worth your time to invest. So I've made the calculated decision. I've learned, I've researched, I've spent my time around it long enough to say this is worthwhile. I'll tell you from my experience, things that work really well for me, great. It's a GitHub Copilot, 100%. I love it. Got to have that. That's how you do coding. It's Fabric all day long. Love Fabric. And also, even on the smaller SKUs, just turning it on and getting it smaller SKUs, that's going to be useful. That's super useful at the smaller F2 level. You can still do a lot of things. It lets you have lake houses, and you don't need to push all of your semantic models to the lake house. So one of the really neat techniques here, again, I learned this from the community, was build your data engineering inside the F2 Fabric space, import your data into a pro or premium user space. Now you get all the data engineering you want, and now you have imported models on the other side of the world. You don't need Direct Lake. There's 90% of all models were probably are sitting around imported anyways. So just import it from your lake house, and great. It's super cheap. You can do all the data engineering you want, and now you get these great models that can be really large with a premium per user. You're getting 100 gig model at your disposal. That's incredible. So I'm looking at this stuff going like, that's really impressive what they're doing there. And so the gains you can get from this is just immense. And so, that's where I'm really saying, like, there's definitely places where you can invest now and get some really big wins. And I think for me, it's a lot of, where can I invest a little bit of time, get enough understanding that I get a higher value reward from the work that I produce, right? And this is, to me, where I think all the bot and the AI stuff is going to go. It's going to continue. What's happening is, the more AI comes into this space, the larger the value return is becoming for me. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So, like, today I would put in 2 units of work and I'd get out 4 because Fabric. I put in 2 units of work, I get out, 5 units of work because of Power BI and Fabric together, right? That's kind of what I'm going to be able to do tomorrow. Is I'm going to put in 4 units of work. I'm going to get out 100 units of work. I'm going to put in 6 units of work. I'm going to get out 150 units. So that the exponential growth on the other side of things is going to be immense. And I'm looking at this going like, wow, for $200 a month for a Claude Max subscription, or a heavier Power BI GitHub Copilot subscription, or an AI Foundry subscription, if I just step into those things and say, yeah, I'm going to put an extra $100 down each month to be more productive, wow, that would make a massive move on your company. I think the value returned on that will be immense. And you're going to have your main developers 100% begging for these code experiences and using them inside Fabric and around Power BI.
And you're not, what I'm hearing you say is basically, don't expect to boil the data ocean. It's incremental gains here. and kind of taking that from, and I really like that, Mike. I could say better myself. I think that's a great way to kind of take a look at that from I know we're already in an hour, but
it's just a metered way of like putting numbers and like
Yeah.
scales and things. I don't ever like to recommend everything to everyone because I don't know your situation 100%, but I can tell you where I've learned and where I've gained value. And if you're sounding like you're in me in those spaces, like, hey, I want to put in 4 units of work and get out 10 units of work or 20 or 30, you should really consider doing AI in various spaces. I'm using AI to help create and generate a ton. And I think it's increasing my output greatly.
Oh, 100%. And you know what a consultant's favorite 2 words are, right?
More money?
It depends.
Oh, the other one. That's true. More money. You ran out of your statement of work. It's time for more. It's time for more money.
No, I think that I tend
Those
to
are the
use
second favorite words.
A little more.
Second favorite words. Change order. Third favorite words. Anyways,
favorite word.
Having fun with it.
Mike, I love the question today. I love the comment. All right, Mike, one more to 500.
One more till 500. That's what we're doing. Thank you all very much for listening to the podcast. If you like what we're talking about, if you're having value from this, all of our episodes on YouTube run with ads. So if you'd like to become part of our community and help support the channel, we'd love for you to become a member. So check out the membership down below. You get access to all of our podcast videos ad-free. So all those will come to you ad-free, and we'll be adding more content, more videos, and those will be coming in ad-free as well if you become a member of our channel. So we really encourage you, if you like what we're doing here, you want to help support the team, we'd really greatly appreciate it, because we're going to take all your money, funnel it to the bots, and we're going to build more stuff. So that's how this works. So that's the goal here. Hopefully we'll get you more content by having you help us leverage that as well. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating. It helps us out a ton. Do you have a question, idea, or topic that you want us to talk about in a future episode? Head over to PowerBI.tips/podcast. Leave your name and a great question. And join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central. And join the conversation on all PowerBI.tips social media channels.
Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.